We'd actually record like individually today.
Mm.
This is kind of like just a bonus hangout before we start season next.
Season whatever.
I call it that because I don't know if we have seasons, and if we do, what season we're on.
I don't understand podcasts that have seasons. It's like just
unless
you don't need
Irreverent
seasons.
Skeptics.
Well, if we have seasons, we can have season finales and cliffhangers. Will John have that third cocktail? Stay tuned.
No.
Will Erno resurrect with a man bun?
Man bun? Oh.
Well, Jon Snow did it.
Mm. That's true, he did, didn't he? Yeah.
Is tonight the season finale of Game of Thrones? I haven't seen the last 3 episodes, so I gotta get caught up at some point.
Oh, the last one was kind of fun. So there was some real vindication, justice porn going on there. So.
Yeah.
Was
one
the
episode
Bolton
before
guy
that was complete shit. And
I take it the Bolton
last
guy gets his
episode.
comeuppance then?
He gets his, yes, very, very uppance has come. Yes.
I'm just kind of like, I like Game of Thrones, but you know, as I've told you guys before, I suffer from the everything can go for too many seasons, and I think Game of Thrones should have gone 4 seasons. And by that I mean not stop where it was at season 4, but they should have found, here's the story we want to tell, and put that in 4 seasons. And I think
a cat being abused.
Probably heard the door squeaking as Brandy was shutting it.
Yeah, I
read
think
the
they said
first
there's only
book
2
and
more
just didn't
seasons.
want to continue it, so
Say that again?
I
Very
read
quiet.
the first book and just didn't want to continue on with it.
Nah.
I haven't read any
I
of
haven't been
them.
interested in watching the television show or anything either.
I never read the books, and the show is okay. I'm just kind of like, I would not be surprised if next season comes and goes, and I binge watch it after it's already over.
I've read the books 3 times, the ones that have been published, so
So let me
they're
suggest,
pretty good.
if you like Game of Thrones, like the style, the kind of things that go on, the kind of story it is, allow me to suggest the first Law series by Joe Abercrombie. It is fucking fantastic. One thing is, it doesn't take 10 years for a book to come out, which I'm not complaining about that. I'm just saying you'll have immediate payoff. There's 7 books in the series. There's the first trilogy and then 4 independent books. It's pretty funny in a lot of places, although it's very dark, and it doesn't drone on endlessly before things happen. So if that sounds at all appealing, I cannot recommend it enough. I'm absolutely in love with all of those books.
And if you like really bad fantasy fiction,
audio, because I have a hell of a lot of flying to do, so all audio shit is.
I know they're on Audible. We actually have all of them on Audible. I've had trouble finding them elsewhere, but you might be able to. Or if you have Audible, you might be able to get it there. So.
Yeah. If you want a really bad fantasy adventure series, I would suggest the Sword of Truth series by
Oh my
Terry,
god, that was complete
what's his name?
shit.
Terry Goodkind. Yeah, about
Oh yeah.
I read that,
way through
like,
the
back in
series,
the
it turns into a
90s.
giant libertarian fantasy story.
I read that back in the 90s, and I remember enjoying it, but I did think he got a little preachy at points.
Yeah, he basically turns into a giant Ayn Rand story at some point about the how charity is not a virtue and everyone should fight for freedom, and if they don't, then they should die. So.
So there's that.
Yeah. There's basically a whole book where it's just the guy struggling to fight his way up through this oppressive society and through capitalism and free enterprise. It's ridiculous.
Nice.
Yeah.
Lovely.
So here's a little story. They're here in Pittsburgh. They have a thing. It's an organization called Bike PGH, and they hold different events. And there's one they're having today called Open Streets. So from downtown to a little north, there's like a 3.5 mile long strip of road they've closed off just for pedestrians, cyclists, people on skates, whatever. They've got all kinds of different vendors and activities and people playing music, and they even had a drum circle, which I couldn't roll my eyes at hard enough. And so there was a place.
Hippies.
They were giving free massages in a couple places. There was a chiropractic place that was giving free massages. I was telling Brandy my shoulders have been really tight lately, and I'm like, maybe I'll go by there. Like if it's just a massage, that's okay. Like I could be all right with that. So we go riding around down there, and we go right up to where the place is. And my excuse for not doing it was there was a little bit of a waiting list. We rode off, and I told Brandy, as I was pulling up there was some part of me that was just revolting against the idea of even a free chiropractic massage. I just can't do it.
So Susan and I just went to see my niece graduate back at the beginning of the month, and we flew back from Indiana by way of Minneapolis for some reason. We flew west, and then we flew back east. But at the Minneapolis airport, there was a kiosk with a chiropractor at it, like doing chiropractic adjustments in the airport. So what I thought of is there's nothing that says real medical professional like random strangers coming up to you in the middle of the airport and not giving you any sort of medical history and getting treatment.
That is a good point. That's a very good point. All right, so what's new in the in the skeptic realm for you guys?
The skeptic realm.
What's gotten under your skin lately, or what's interested you?
The end of science.
Yeah, I want to hear about that. Tell us about that. What's up with the end of science?
Well,
so just Jesus now, right?
Apparently no, but no. There's been this little kerfluffle amongst skeptics over an article written by this guy John Horgan, and then he appeared at Nexus, and and I'm like, I never heard of the guy. He apparently writes for Scientific American. I think he's written for other. He's a science journalist, and this book, and then, when I go, okay, I'm gonna read the book. I mean, hey, before I stick my foot in my mouth and maybe misrepresent, I thought I'd read this thing, and oh man, the first chapter, I really wanted to give this guy, he makes these valid points, but I think he makes them for the wrong reasons. Because in the first chapter, he kind of does this overview of what's going on. That because he, or at least the claim is that everything that needs to be discovered has been discovered, and that scientists are now just fleshing out the details.
Didn't they say that like 100 years ago?
Yeah, I think they've said it on and off, but it's like he's like the Newton's laws, Einstein's laws of relativity, and then getting into the quantum mechanics and all that stuff. That kind of where we're at a point where. And again, there's these things. There's these red flags that I kind of look for when they start talking about cost. The idea that the law of diminishing returns. You have to spend more to find. For less and less. That whole mindset. And he seems to be going down that road. That we're spending so much money on science that's getting very minute. We're getting very little science for the amount of money we're spending. I mean, the Large Hadron Collider is his example. That the billions that went in to build that, only to find this one, the Higgs boson. That's somehow that is a waste of money. Now, then he goes and he's interviewed a lot of the big names, Karl Popper. I can go. I got the book here open. Let's see. There's guys. Well, let's see if I can find some names here. But I know Karl Popper pops up. A lot of philosophy. Uh, I'm just trying to find. But he's apparently
Well,
interviewed.
he did a lot of big names. I guess we don't need the whole list of them.
Yeah, I was just going to try to find, but it's like he's interviewed these guys, and they've all had these. Well, the philosophers tend to like. There's these convoluted arguments about, has science has reached its end? I mean, we are not going to be making any major discoveries. We're not going to discover whatever. I mean, we've discovered, we've got our physics, we've got our mathematics, we've got chemistry, we've got this real, everything that needs to be, basically everything that needs to be discovered has been discovered, and it's.
How would you even know that? How could you possibly know that? I mean, the thing that the one constant, really, I think, in scientific discovery is that the more we learn, the more we realize there is left to learn. I mean, if you think this is all we're going to discover, you're assuming that we have total knowledge of everything that we could possibly ever learn. I don't know how you could know that.
Well,
there is a point that at the beginning of things, like we think about the golden age of medicine from like the early 1900s throughout like to the 1980s, and that was when like things were advancing really quickly and making discoveries all the time. And nowadays, it's like we're doing all this research to find just new chemicals that'll slightly improve your odds of beating cancer. So it is kind of a thing where it looks like there's diminishing returns there, although important stuff is still being done, and you never know when like a whole like world-changing discovery is going to be made.
Yeah, because every time you make a discovery, new questions pop up, so you got to answer them. And that's what science is doing. It's constantly, I mean, it's reinventing itself as it goes along. You make a discovery, but there's the missing piece. I mean, relativity was because there was a missing piece to Newtonian physics. So Einstein says, "Oh, let's look at it this way," or we come up with this.
Yeah, scientists are always changing their minds. That's why I believe the Bible.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, that's that. The rock upon which we can.
It's always the same, so must be true.
Yeah, that bastion of morality, and that's another one I've been going through. But let's stick to the science part first.
Yeah, this guy John Horgan, though, you mentioned he talked at Nexus. There was he basically gave a speech about how skeptics are going after soft targets like homeopathy and Bigfoot, and we need to be going after bigger targets like mammograms and war. And there's a big article on Stephen Novella's blog on Neurologica called John Horgan is Skeptical of Skeptics, and he talks all about basically this is him mischaracterizing the process of science as a science journalist, and he seems to not be really familiar with the skeptical community and how broad the target base is for skeptics, and that we should stop caring about the things that we talk about and care about the things that he cares about instead. So it's an interesting read. He says things like that string theory is not explicitly falsifiable, and therefore it's just like astrology. So that's the level of confusion that he has going on here.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of scientists actually say the same thing. I mean, I guess there's like a dispute between people in theoretical physics about whether string theory is a valid thing or not.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there are certain, like the base level falsifiability issue is common between astrology and string theory, but there's a whole lot more wrong with astrology as well. So it's to say it's just like that, I think, is a little dishonest.
I mean, at least string theory is based on something real.
Right. Yeah, there's mathematical justification for string theory, not so much for astrology, where you would basically be saying that in depending on which version of astrology you use, something like 1 out of 12 people should share the same kind of personality. So.
And it's just completely made up the way these things work. There's no testing of it or anything. I mean, string theory, I've heard that there are possible ways to test it out, like, just, would be, like, really expensive and, like, some sort of things floating around in space and measuring something. I don't remember what exactly it was, but...
Yeah, I think it would need machines bigger than the universe, basically.
Right. I mean, the thing is that limitation, it's just practically unfalsifiable. It's not like in theory falsifiable. There is a way to test it. It's just that we don't have the technology to do it because of the energy consumption or the scale or whatever.
That huge, I think, but it's just something that it would take a lot of money and resources in order to put something out there to test it.
So if we could harness the power of the machine that's running the simulation with which we live in,
exactly,
we could test that.
Yeah, but so Horgan kind of almost got booed off the stage at Nexus because of some of the things he said. Like I don't know if let me see here. In this article that Steve Novella wrote, he's summarizing. I don't know if he's summarizing the talk. No, he's talking. He did. He published the notes from his talk on Scientific American's website. And at one point in the talk, he started attacking psychiatric drugs, saying that in the short term it helps people, but over time it makes people sicker. So he seems to have... He actually argues that psychiatric medication is increasing the rate of mental illness. And you say something like that at a skeptical conference, you're going to be raising some hackles.
Did he go on to provide some proof of that, by chance?
He cited a book by journalist Robert Whitaker called Anatomy of an Epidemic. That's about it.
I'm going to have to read this whole blog, I guess.
And Novella says that Whitaker, like Horgan, criticized psychiatry from the outside without having even a basic understanding of the evidence he was using. So. That's
pretty common. I don't know how common that would be for someone speaking at Nexus, but...
Yeah, and I guess after the speech, Jamie and Swiss came out and said he was sorry for this talk. It was like the MC came out and apologized for the guest.
Yeah. Why didn't they vet this guy? I mean, they would have. I mean, I've gone through a bunch of his Scientific American articles, and it should have been a red flag. I don't know how he got onto the panel, if he was invited.
Well, I guess Steve Novella said that they were hoping they would get some sort of critical introspection into the skeptical movement. But it just seemed like he didn't know much about the skeptical movement. Like he attacked the skeptics for not talking about overdiagnosis or overprescription of medications and things like that. And Steve Novella points out he has 40 articles on his blog alone about overdiagnosis of mental illness and medical conditions.
I read a book on that not too long ago. It's really interesting stuff. And yeah, just if you're just testing people like indiscriminately, people want so much testing. They think that'll keep them safe, but it's not always the case.
Right.
I would talk more about that if we wanted to put on a show about that at some point.
That would be a good thing to add to the list, I think.
And I would love to do one about chiropractic. I have learned so much about that in the last few months. For example, did you know that chiropractic was invented by a ghost?
We've only ever done segments on that before, huh?
I think we briefly talked about it during our pseudomedicine episode. But yeah, the guy who first started using chiropractic said that he received the knowledge of the technique from the spirit of a dead doctor. He was an active spiritualist, and he talked about how chiropractic adjustments were his religious duty.
I have not heard that one.
Oh yeah, Daniel David Palmer. The article about him on Wikipedia goes into pretty good detail about his beliefs and how he first tried to get chiropractic protected as a religious idea because he couldn't validate it as a medical profession, and then somehow managed to convince people that it was real medicine. So it's an interesting story. And that chiropractors still can't actually agree on the definition of what a subluxation is or how you can detect it. And that's the whole core of chiropractic. So that'd be a fun topic.
Hey, how about that study that came out, like, was it last month or the month before, about cell phones and cancer, and the whole internet went nuts?
Another one? I think I missed this one.
I saw something.
I saw a whole
back
bunch
in
of
May,
pop science
What was it,
articles
bad?
saying bad news, cell phones linked to cancer after all, or something.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw a headline and didn't bother reading it that cell phones don't cause cancer. To which I thought, well, I guess it doesn't matter either way because nobody actually uses a cell phone anymore anyhow. And I just clicked right off of it, kept on moving.
Cell phones? What's a cell phone? I just tapped the end button and closed the application and then put my oh wait, right.
Nobody actually makes phone calls anymore, really, either. I mean,
I actually get somewhat surprised when I get a phone call on my phone.
yeah. It's like, you know, only in cases where it's like you just want to call to, like, really verify something for a few seconds. People always text these days.
Or order food.
This episode with psychiatry, Brandy, if I have to tie her down to a chair to get her to talk on that one, I will, because she'll have plenty to say about that.
Oh yeah.
That's closer to her wheelhouse, I think, than any of ours.
Yep.
Yeah. So, did I tell you guys? I think I mentioned to some of you that I found the perfect way to debate with a truther.
No.
Just
What's
say
that?
la la la
So-
la 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 la.
So I have a friend of mine who is a truther, and we were hanging out a couple weeks ago, and he decided to bring it up first. It's important to note that. So he starts going on with how 2 planes can't drop that building. They were destroyed on purpose, and blah blah blah. And at first I tried to talk a little reason with him, and I realized this isn't going to get me anywhere.
Lizard people.
So instead, I just doubled down, and I said, "You know what? You're actually right. You're actually right." So I was like, "Look, here's the thing. So the government dropped a couple towers. Yeah, that didn't even happen. I don't even know if the towers were there. They were probably holograms in the first place."
I never saw him in person, did you?
Right. Yeah, I never actually seen them, and I mean, I just went down like, yeah. Oh, so we could go to war. Yeah, like, you really want me to believe we have a bunch of troops on the other side of the world in some desert somewhere? Please, come on. They're out in the Mojave Desert on some huge stage with movie producers making a war out there. We didn't actually send anybody to war. I just kept doubling down and going more and more until finally he just gives me this look like, he's just looking at me like, what the hell is wrong with you? And I said, yeah, that look right there. So that's what I was thinking when you started all this.
I have a buddy of mine who often talks about 9/11 and the moon landing and JFK, but I'm pretty sure he does it just to piss people off.
I like the SKCD take on that, where you just play one conspiracy theory off over
Yes.
another. So, like, you're like, there's no way that the plane fuel could burn so hot to melt steel bars, and you could be just like, well, what about the chemicals that they use to make the chemtrails?
Who knows how hot that burns?
Yeah.
I actually managed to throw in chemtrails. I don't remember now what I said. I just went on a rant for a while at him until he finally just kind of stopped talking about it. And I said, look, you brought it up. Can we just talk about something else? So that's my new plan if I have to talk to a truther again. Hopefully not. Hey, he's the same friend who got into an argument with me about either you do, or you either believe that God exists or you believe God doesn't exist. You can't stand somewhere between. It's a binary situation. You either do or don't. And I'm like, no, you can just you can just not hold a belief either way. Like, you don't have to assert one way or the other. And yeah, it went.
I believe in Jibber's crabs, the lobster god living out near the rings of Saturn. If you haven't seen that video, there's a.
Not.
I think it was the guy from the Oatmeal did a talk, not at TED, but some sort of comedy conference about Jibber's crabs, the real god that we should all worship.
Jibber's crabs. I'll have to check this out. So, dumbass, what's new that's got your hackles up lately? It's got to be something. Come on. Are you feeling the Trump yet? Like, I don't know.
Oh, have you seen that new video? The like Japanese commercial video about Trump.
Yes, the Japanese Trump commercial with the swastikas and everything in it. Yes.
I don't think I've seen that. I saw the Australian video where they have a guy dressed up as Trump making a speech about how beautiful the wall is behind him, and a bunch of people are climbing up out of the ground from coming underneath the wall,
Like
and then
dressed as a
somebody,
mariachi, a guy with a churro cart.
a guy flies over the wall using two leaf blowers.
Leaf blowers. Oh God. No, I don't know if it was him or not, but at the reopening of his golf course in Scotland, I don't know if he was giving a talk or somebody else was giving a talk, but some protesters showed up with a whole bunch of red golf balls with swastikas on them and threw them around the speaker.
Nice.
Yeah, after that video, I'm totally feeling Trump.
Yeah. It's huge. He's a tremendous candidate. You wouldn't even believe how good a candidate he is.
Somebody's listening to it now, aren't they?
I just turned it on.
Yeah, so the Gibbers Crabs thing came from the Bad Ad Hoc Hypothesis Festival, also known as Ba Fest, in 2014. Which there's a lot of really funny stuff there. There's one speaker who talked about how infants are. I don't remember what the story was, but basically it culminates in catapulting infants over mountains. And how infants are adorable because otherwise we would kill them.
Considering all this stuff going on these days, I just almost want to do a gun control episode again.
So, gun ban? Yeah.
No, I don't know what I would say any different than I said before, so it's probably not a great idea.
I keep hearing from people in Germany and Canada and other countries where they have sensible laws where you get a license, you go through training, you get a background check, and you get a gun for personal use for hunting or for target shooting and things like that. I could see that working in America. And then there's a buddy of mine I know in the Canadian military who has a special license to carry a gun on him if he wants to, but he just doesn't. So there's a weird relationship between Americans and their guns, I think.
I mean, I think it's like a minority of Americans, but they like to think that they want to be an action hero, basically, and they're just walking around. They want to carry their gun, and they're hoping something goes down.
Man, I wish somebody would.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. That the only ones who want guns in America, or who hoard guns in America, are people
what the hell is that? It's very distracting.
I don't know what to think of that.
They want to be the hero from an action movie and take down all the bad guys and fight the government when the need arises.
So you guys think
that's Neo?
So do you guys think that's the majority of gun rights advocates that want that? You think?
I don't think so. I think most of them just have been taught that if guns are taken away, you're going to lose all of your rights, and they're just out of principle.
I see.
I got into an argument with a guy on Facebook the other day who talked about how
the open carry ones. The open carry ones are definitely want to be action heroes.
Oh yeah, the guys who walk around with the
are you saying all? Are you saying all of them do? Like, I think. See, what I think about those guys is, rather than action heroes, they just want to cause a stir. They just want to make waves. You know, I'm gonna go walk in and order my chicken sandwich with a rifle slung over my shoulder. They just want to get attention and cause waves. I don't even think they're necessarily
I
looking
wonder.
for
But
Looking
holding
action.
around a gun makes you look badass.
I wonder what the overlap between the open carry movement and the sovereign citizens movement is. I get the feeling there's a big overlap there.
There's a big overlap there. That's all part of the deal. It's like well, the sovereign citizens that they don't believe they pretend well, it's so convoluted what they believe anyhow, but it's like
A lot of it's what suits them in the moment.
well, it's like the Constitution doesn't apply to them because the federal government is illegitimate, and there's things like Ohio. Ohio was not properly admitted as a state.
Yes.
Union.
Oh God.
So that the claim is that because
just briefly, was Pennsylvania? Because can we undo that? Can that?
that was original colony.
Is it a Texas? Is that what's going on?
Yeah. No. Ohio. Apparently, they were supposed to ring the Liberty Bell for Ohio, and they didn't. That is the argument. That is the argument that Ohio was never a state.
Oh my God. I keep learning more and more about just how far that mindset extends, because I saw some guy on YouTube who posted a video about how we should definitely do an episode on sovereign citizens. But this guy had a video about how he was illegally detained by a false peace officer, and his vehicle was stolen, and he was kidnapped and held unlawfully in the prison or whatever. And it's all because he refused to comply with a cop at a traffic stop. And he said that everybody who disagrees with him, I see what's really going on here. You've all been brainwashed by the American educational system, which is it's patterned after the Prussian educational system from the 1700s. It's like, what?
First you learn about potato.
Here's my notes.
I've never heard of that.
Here's my notes on the
sovereign.
This is my notes on sovereign citizens.
So it's going to be a 3-parter, huh?
Are you writing a book? I think you should. With that much material, that's a book.
Well, a lot of it's Wikipedia stuff, but no,
that's crazy. That's huge.
The whole movement.
Hey, Mike, I'm just going to go ahead and say, since you have like 2 books worth of stuff printed there, you could use a tablet, buddy.
I'm sorry, I got to go through every page. I'm going to mark it. I got to make notes.
You can do that with a tablet. That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't actually have to have the paper.
It's nice to see all the flags off the page and the highlighting and everything.
Yeah.
It's a lot of a hassle to do it with a tablet, though.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like, it highlights the wrong thing. You're like, no, I didn't want that, and then trying to get it done and do that. And
that goes back to our hating the technology that I love. Like, it's
first world problems.
Kinds of great stuff, and it fucks every last one of them up too.
Yeah.
They are a fascinating bunch of folks, though, aren't they?
I think, maybe we can do that for when we record our first new episode in a while. We do on sovereign citizens. Man, that'll be something.
I have the first of our 2 episodes on the Mormons edited. At some point, I'm going to have to edit the second part and publish those, and then I think just get to editing new stuff.
So here's the thing I mentioned before you got here. For some of our older episodes that aren't edited, we can also look at re-recording some of them. Like we can look at the notes we had for it. In retrospect, maybe we want to change things we said or whatever. So I don't know. I was telling them. I told Brandy we either need to start recording or stop pretending like we have a podcast.
We'll tell
why start now?
Right. It's been working so well for so long.
Yeah, Corey from the Brainstorm podcast has been asking if we're still a thing.
I think our official answer should be your face is still a thing.
Mom's a thing.
Welcome to the Irreverent Skeptics, sometimes cast.
I think we've got Skeptics with a K beat.
What's that other show? Oh, yeah. Every now and then.
With a K stopped recording? I haven't been listening to podcasts in a little while.
Oh, they put out an episode every several months, maybe. So.
I've been listening to so my podcast listening has diminished a little bit because I've listened to more audiobooks, but it's also shifted. I listen to very little skeptical podcasts anymore. I've listened to Very Bad Wizards religiously. I actually started giving them money on Patreon. I love that show. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
If you haven't listened to that, you are totally missing out, by the way.
They predicted the coming of Trump, by the way. I listened to one of their earlier episodes, like their 4th or 5th episode, and they said something about Mitt Romney. They said the reaction to Mitt Romney is just bizarre. You know, he's not a monster. It's not like they're running Donald Trump against Obama.
Wow.
Exactly. That's madness.
So yeah, I've listened. I still listen to a number of podcasts, but it's kind of all over the board anymore about what I listen to.
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about the Dyatlov Pass thing. You know what that you know what that is, right? Yeah. So I was like, you know who I bet has something to say about this? Brian Dunning. So I resubscribed to Skeptoid and went scrolling through looking for it. I was like, oh yeah, there it is. Fucking reasonable. Like 10 minutes of being reasonable, and now it's not even interesting anymore.
I was browsing around on various game stores the other day, and I saw there's some new video game coming out, very loosely based on the Dyatlov Pass incident, and I was like, this is not at all what this story was about. It's some weird, like, occult-looking thing.
Well, might as well be, right?
Like, dude walking around in the Arctic, and there's giant skulls embedded in a wall of rock, and I was like, where was this in the story? Creative license, I guess.
I suppose so, yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I've been listening more to. I'm sticking to the Skeptics Guide. When I was on the Unseen podcast, we had Bob Novella as a guest, and he never gave us a plug. So I don't know about those guys. At least the amateur skeptics give us a little bit of a boost once in a while.
I feel like Irreverent Skeptics, they might still be a thing.
With them tonight, if you want to the show.
And I just listened to the one. For some reason my phone doesn't. It's been unsubscribing me from stuff and resubscribing or whatever.
It's the Russian hackers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Damn Russians.
Speaking of which, how's Finland doing? How are the Finns and the Russians doing lately? I remember last we talked, there was weird stories about them encroaching on Finnish land or whatever.
Same old. Our country is going to shit and whatnot. Yeah, we're pretty much in a situation much like the British are, where we're just going haywire over the potential of people coming over who are scary and foreign. So that's still a thing.
So if Finland leaves the EU, would that be called a Fexit? Fexit all?
Couldn't it be just called EU finished?
Finish him.
God,
Yeah. But I have
they're
a
just trying to implode these days.
I have a coworker that's kind of whole lot into these sites that basically publish things by Russian trolls. So like actual paid trolls who have these weird newspapers or whatever internet-based
Like Russia Today?
news sites. Something like almost like World News Daily or whatever it's called.
Pravda.
Yeah. But it's just he's kind of into that, so he's buying into all whatever the Russian government is saying, and that's pretty funny. It's not dangerous, but it's funny.
I've got such a crush on Vladimir Putin.
Well, soon
He's
you'll have your own
dreamy.
Vladimir Putin when Donald Trump's the president.
Those
Oh,
words should never come out of
he's
anyone's
always
mouth.
taking
That-
pictures with his shirt off.
Hillary indictment,
Oh, gosh.
Hillary
I-
indictment, Trump
Shirtless,
presidency.
the shirtless
I
man on the
am-
horse, yeah.
I have adopted one of Brandy's stances on things of this nature, where so when people talk about like, oh, it's going to be a disaster if Donald Trump gets elected, and I'm like, good, I hope it is, because it's going to be fun to watch people lose their fucking minds.
I would have the
Actually,
same.
he won't be able to do shit.
I would have that same opinion if there weren't people who were actually going to suffer as a result of him being president. So,
Like all
Yeah, but
Americans.
I guess I get that. I get that. In the same sense, though, a lot of people are suffering while he's not president. So, in a sense, like that doesn't. Now, it may change the amount of suffering. That I don't know. But just like the idea, well, and more what I mean is like people in his party, and when they realize at some point, potentially, what a terrible mistake they've made, watching their heads explode will be hilarious.
it just like the 2 million people in the UK who called for another referendum because they didn't actually think that anybody was going to vote for them to leave.
Yeah.
Oh, we fucked up. Oops.
And they call us Americans stupid.
No, we
Regarding
won't call you
Trump,
stupid
I think I
anymore.
said this when
We have the
when
greatest
we talked
referendum.
last time. I think I said this when we talked last time regarding Trump, and I think I'm going to stand by it. That I think that Trump getting the nomination is just a gift to the Democrats.
I still really I would love it if he was actually just there to make sure Hillary gets elected, not because I'm big on Hillary. I just think it'd be great if like he fucked that party over just to get the other party in.
Yeah.
It would be kind of
I think that GOP will just use him as a puppet anyway, because it's not like he's the smartest man. He'd be like Reagan or George W.
Someone has to sit down and someone has to figure out a way to sit down and tell him just shut the fuck up for a little bit. Just shut up.
For some real entertainment, you should look at the talk he gave about the whole Brexit thing in Scotland.
I got highlights of that. That was entertaining.
It reminded me so much of Sarah Palin. Like he couldn't actually answer questions, so he just talked off topic for like 30 seconds until people forgot what the question was and then moved on to somebody else. And he talked about how great it was for his business. He does that. Like, we could have a whole episode about this entire election cycle between the conspiracy theories about the voter suppression and the whether or not Hillary is going to be indicted, and the fact that Donald Trump is basically using his campaign fundraising to bankroll his own companies and all this other stuff. It's such a fucking crazy thing.
I've thought about that before, and my thoughts on that are like that's kind of. I feel like that's a bit of outside of the scope of what we tend to do. Like that's a little more hardline politics than I really like us to do. We could do just a hangout like this on it rather than making an
very
actual
special
episode.
episode.
A very special episode.
Is it like an after-school special from the 90s?
Lessons will be learned.
Do they still do after-school specials?
I have no idea.
This episode of Saved by the Bell, Josie gets addicted to caffeine pills.
Mm.
I mean,
I'll
I
have
don't
that.
watch youth TV or anything, so I don't know if they do things like that.
I don't watch much TV. Everything we watch, we just stream everything now. And
Paying for TV?
most of it. there are a few things that we acquire that. All right. So anyway, I guess that's a good warm up. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna do sovereign citizens. That's a good question. Is that a good topic for skepticism?
I think that's a great topic. It reaches into so many different, like there's the legal side of it, there are accusations about education, accusations about the whole monetary system, everything. it's like an octopus. It spreads its tentacles
Yeah.
into everything.
Yeah, and it involves a lot of conspiracy theories and such. So
Since Mr. Bowler has the veritable encyclopedia of notes there, if you can, Mike, send us some links to things you think would be good to read.
Actually, I've
get
got
up to
that. I've
speed.
got that in a PDF, so I can throw it up on the
Perfect.
FTP.
That would also be good. Yeah. So I'm okay with recording next weekend if you guys want to, but it is holiday weekend here in the U.S. So if that doesn't work for Mike and Mike and Dumbass, because I know you guys celebrate American independence, right?
Right.
Isn't that the day we save you from France?
You're welcome.
next week should
Thank
be
you, Mark.
okay for me.
Okay.
Yes,
That
I
should be
think so.
fine.
I will have
should
to
be good.
make do with the equipment I have now, but
Hey, it sounds good. It would work.
Yeah, that actually sounds just fine.
Yeah.
okay.
So
Then no problem.
if any given day works better for you guys, let me know.
I'll figure it out.
Oh,
I
I'm
think I
taking
have Dungeons
vacation.
and Dragons on Saturday, so.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm taking vacation from Wednesday to Tuesday, so
And I am off Friday through Monday.
Yeah, same here. I'm pretty much good for. I think any of those days. I would even do it Monday. Although, sure, you guys have things to do. Like I don't give a shit about going to watch fireworks.
Blowing stuff up, that's the American way, man. Come on.
Woo!
Woo, America.
blow up a small part of America.
Right.
My hands.
So I'm gonna guess that's gonna be a two-parter, maybe three if there's enough stuff to talk about. But we'll see how it goes.
And I'll work on editing up the...
Let's try to keep the episodes about 1 hour or so in length.
That would
a
be
good idea.
perfect. Yeah. I'll work on editing up the second part of the Mormons episode, and then we can get those two out, because I really want to publish those two. Those are really good. So.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, I guess I will talk to you guys next weekend then.
Sweet.
All right. And for our viewer and other viewer that was here earlier, thank you for watching us
Why?
talking shit. Next week we'll actually talk about something coherent.
It
Probably
will be tremendous.
gonna be huge.
Huge.
All right.